So a long time ago, I made this video called IT Basics, or Basic Skills for Computer Jobs. What you should know about IT Basics. That was the title of the video, and we can actually show you that right here. This is the video. 8 years ago, this was created. However, today, we got this comment, like 44 minutes ago, actually, because I just took a screenshot right before I hit record. This video was made a long time ago. Do you still suggest all the same things? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. Do I actually suggest all the same things in this video that's 8 years old? Yeah, we're going to dive into this one. All right, so we're actually just going to watch this video and follow along, but I do want to point out that this comment right here actually kind of breaks down exactly what you're going to find in this video. But a pro tip for anybody out there who's watching YouTube, if you don't know, you can actually speed up videos, so you can actually speed up me talking. So if you don't want to listen to my dumb face talking, speed me up. Just go to this little, cog icon, go to playback speed, and we can increase this to 2. It's going to be very, very fast. But it's okay, because we already know what we're going to be talking about. Kind of diving into it, I'll just try to mute myself while I'm doing this. Maybe this will work out for us. But here, right away, I'm covering Windows Server, Windows 7 at the time. Wow, Windows 7. And Office, look at those icons. Look at all of those icons. They're very old now. Having experience and knowledge in Microsoft Office alone, the entire suite is always going to be helpful for you. So definitely that's something that I would stand by. And same with learning Windows Server. Definitely learn Windows Server. You can virtualize it nowadays. Well, even back then you could. You could virtualize Windows Server. You can create a domain controller from it. You can learn Active Directory. Those are things that you should absolutely be learning and figuring out, trying out, because it's so easy to virtualize things nowadays. You can really get hands-on with pretty much everything. So not so much Windows 7, but I would definitely recommend you learning Windows 11. So yeah, just to be up to date, right? Since that video's so old. But anyway,
Sure.
let's dive into this more.
The
next thing that I start talking about is command prompt. You know what? Again, that's something that I will actually stand by today too as well. If you are just learning your ropes through IT, you're just trying to figure out what it is that you want to be doing with your career, does not matter like what area within the information technology world that you want to be getting into, learning the command prompt, learning how to navigate through the command prompt alone, right? That's always going to be a beneficial skill for you. And especially in any job where you're going to do any type of troubleshooting and things like that, you will be in the command prompt very, very often. And if you get into any type of networking position, command prompt will always be open on your computer. But I can remember working in almost every single IT job that I held, no matter what the title was, command prompt, PowerShell, those were always Windows or things that I had open on my computer because I was constantly in them doing things. If a user called and they were having an issue with something, I would be pinging their computer, depending on the issue, making sure that it's connected to the network if that may be associated with the call. Maybe I was checking the uptime of the computer because, end users are just notorious for saying, yeah, of course I rebooted my computer. And they run an uptime check on their computer and it hasn't been restarted in like 47 days and it's missing like, 12 updates. So anyway, that's besides the point. Command prompt is always something that you're going to have open on your computer. It's always something that you're going to be using. And here we're talking about PowerShell even, because pretty much all of the commands that you would use within the command prompt, you can run in PowerShell. So in my later years of IT career, I always had PowerShell open because I would be running PowerShell scripts. And I could also run commands and ping things and check things. And it was just a much more convenient way. I mean, I still had command prompt open often just because I don't know. I love the way it looked, honestly. Probably sounds weird, but nostalgia right there for sure. But anyway, command prompt, PowerShell, knowing how to navigate through those. You don't need to be an expert in these by any means. But, there's things within the command prompt, PowerShell, or ways that you can, navigate your operating system. With command prompt, you can actually run programs as administrator and things like that, which allows you to create batch files, which can be helpful in automation and things like that, which you will learn about kind of further on in your career, possibly, if you end up down that route. But these are just things like that I'm thinking about as far as IT basics and really what's good to know. Yeah, and learning and understanding the command prompt and how you troubleshoot with it, pinging things and checking the routes on things, making sure, there's connectivity there. That's always what I'm going to go to for sure with that. But yeah, anyway, PowerShell, of course, also. And with PowerShell, of course, talking about, I'm sure I just talked about Active Directory. Of course I did. Active Directory is huge. So along with PowerShell, right, kind of goes with Active Directory here and why you should be understanding how you can utilize PowerShell. If you're in a role or you're in a position or in an environment where Active Directory is utilized, you can often do pretty much anything and everything that you need to do with Active Directory within PowerShell itself. So like resetting user accounts and things like that. You could actually just write up a really quick PowerShell script, and there are tons out there that already exist. So you can just copy and paste them. You can customize them a little bit, and I would strongly suggest that you do that. But you can create a PowerShell script that will just allow you to reset passwords. So you don't actually have to have the Active Directory users and groups, whatever window, open on your computer to go and find a user and reset that user. You can actually just use PowerShell to do that. And it's fantastic. But going back to obviously the most replayed part of this entire video in 8 years is Active Directory. And again, it's about to be 2025. Everything that I've covered in this video that is 8 years old already at this point, I still agree with. Like I would not change a thing. There's nothing that I would change about this video so far. Learn Active Directory. It is used everywhere. It is used in pretty much every single large and most medium-sized IT environments. It runs everything. And along with Active Directory comes group policy. These are things that you can learn on your own because you can virtualize a Windows server through something like VirtualBox, right? VirtualBox is a free open source application that will allow you to virtualize any operating system that you want, provided your computer is powerful enough to do that. And most days, every single computer is powerful enough to at least virtualize one operating system. I have videos on this, talked about it many, many times. Virtualization is huge, so easy to do, and it allows you really to get hands-on. I've said this multiple times. I have to reiterate it because it is so critically important that you understand this. Getting hands-on with these tools, applications, programs, and things like that is pivotal to you and your learning journey and furthering your career. So virtualize Windows Server. There's Windows Server 2021 or 22 or whatever's out. I mean, you can go to 2019. It does not matter. You can promote that server as a domain controller, and you can do this all within a span of like less than an hour, depending on your internet speed. So if you have like a really fast internet, you can download VirtualBox and download a Windows ISO, Windows Server ISO, and get a virtual Windows Server running sometimes in less than like 15 minutes. It's amazing. Like, it's phenomenal. And within the span of less than an hour, you could have that server set up as a domain controller, and you can have Active Directory users and groups and whatnot installed on that machine. And you could be learning Active Directory because, again, it is used everywhere in like every IT environment, pretty much, like that you will find for the most part, honestly. Like, it's very few and far between that you don't run into an environment that's not utilizing Active Directory. It is something you should absolutely learn and understand, know that it exists, know how to navigate it at a very foundational level, and spin up a virtual machine. Give it a shot. But moving on, because I just ranted on this one forever. Group policy is another one that falls in with Active Directory. Group policy, I would say, is a little bit more advanced, probably not so much of an IT basic by some considerations, I would say. It's still something I would strongly suggest you have kind of an understanding of if you're getting into any type of IT role, from like help desk or technician role, sysadmin types of roles, things like that. Group policy is heavily used in Active Directory environments. So those kind of go hand in hand. With Active Directory and group policy, that's pretty much how you manage your environment from your users and your computers in how they access things and like the privileges and things that they have. It's essentially like, look at Active Directory and like, group policy as like a cracked out phone book, where you can, have your contacts, but you can have certain permissions for your contacts, where maybe some contacts can only call you and maybe some contacts can only like message you. I'm just giving you an example from a phone contacts perspective. Active Directory lets you get extremely granular in how you want to manage your users and your computers and the things that they can access and the things that they can't access. It's used everywhere. And when you log into a computer, so if you're in an environment that utilizes Active Directory, you might not even know it, but when you log into a computer and you have your username, like Z Hill was often my username because that was my first initial, my first name and last name. That's just naming conventions, something that you'll understand when you learn about Active Directory more. Anyway, when I've logged in with Z-Hill, right, I was logging in through an Active Directory account. And oftentimes, you might know or experienced this already, you forget your password sometimes. And sometimes you have to contact your help desk and be like, hey, I forgot my password. Can you reset it? That's something that you'll do very often, pretty much anywhere you go within IT. So something you should learn. All right, so let's just take a moment to do a quick recap here. What we've learned so far is that Microsoft Office Suite, Windows Server, Windows 11, Windows Command Prompt, PowerShell, virtualization, Active Directory, and group policy are all still things that I would consider basic skills for computer jobs in 2025. So even though this video was actually made almost 9 years ago, because it was published in November, that's a long time ago, everything that we've gone over in that video 9 years ago, still relevant today. The only thing that I've added really is just highlighting more virtualization. And the only other thing that I'm going to add right now that we talked about already is cloud. Just learning cloud fundamentals, right? And that's just essentially like, hey, what the heck is Azure? And what is AWS? And really, what does it do? And honestly, it's just a way that you can virtualize operating systems in the cloud. So when you learn about virtualization and VirtualBox and how you can set up your own Active Directory server and things like that, just think about how that is basically set up in a server in a data center somewhere in the world, right? It's essentially the same thing. That's all virtualization is, except, it's on a computer across the world, but super basic. All right, so I actually just did like this whole bit about Exchange, and I was talking myself through the process, or talking us through the process, and like, what should you learn about Exchange, and is that actually relevant? Now, ultimately, I came to the conclusion that I wouldn't necessarily consider Microsoft Exchange a basic that you should learn. I think email in general as a whole is great to understand. It's important to kind of know how email works, from incoming to outgoing, and understanding spam filters and things like that. Those are always going to be helpful for you. Don't necessarily know that that's a basic. The only thing basic that I would really look at from an email perspective is knowing how to add email to different devices. And nowadays, Microsoft really makes that very easy with Office 365 and all that, or O365, or whatever the heck it's called nowadays, because Microsoft changes the name of all of their things all of the time. Besides the point. Exchange? Meh. I wouldn't consider it basic. So let's move on to the next part of this video. We're talking about DHCP. DHCP, I think that's a basic, that's a fundamental. And I would actually go and say, instead of making, like calling out DHCP specifically, I think networking fundamentals should be called out as a whole. And DHCP will fall under that. DHCP is, something that's used very heavily within environments to help manage IP addressing and making sure that all of your devices are able to connect to the internet. And there's like, that's just kind of like a super basic way to put it. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But I wouldn't say that it's too complicated for somebody to learn and understand. As you're going through and learning networking fundamentals, more specifically like the OSI model, knowing and understanding like the different ports, those are some of the networking fundamentals that I think everybody should really kind of have a good grasp of. Yeah, ultimately what I'm getting at here is I would still keep this on the list actually, but more so I would aim it towards actual just networking fundamentals as a whole. I think that's where your money is going to be at. All right, so moving on throughout the video, the next thing that I actually talk about in this video is DNS and learning and understanding DNS, especially from like a Microsoft Windows environment. DNS is something that you'll not necessarily have to have a huge understanding of. If you just want to understand the basics, I think as you're going through and learning overall your networking fundamentals, you'll learn about DNS as well. And that's more than sufficient. So I guess for this video, that I created almost 9 years ago now, everything is extremely relevant, right? It's all the same. It's legitimately all the same. Now, if I were to actually add anything further to this, now we've modified or added virtualization. We've removed Microsoft Exchange. I don't think that's necessarily basic. I would keep on there nowadays. We consolidated DNS and DHCP to just basic networking fundamentals, because I think that those are definitely basics that everybody should learn. Other things that I think fall in line with knowing, understanding Microsoft Suite, Windows Server, and Windows 11. Well, really just Windows Server and Windows 11. What I would highlight here more specifically is navigating and understanding just the fundamentals of Windows Server and Windows 11. That's going to be most helpful for you from a basic perspective. And this is actually a really good opportunity for me just to kind of talk about this Help Desk Academy. This is documentation that I created. So if you just go out to the web, helpdesk.academy, that's the website, you'll get all of this information right here. This is something that I've been working on for many, many years. And it basically covers like, hey, if we were to dive into the basics and like the real kind of like fundamentals from a practical standpoint, what should you know to be successful in the world of IT? This is kind of how I've broken that down, where we talk about like note keeping, because that's really essential. That's huge in the world of IT. We break down what IT departments are and what is like the different IT roles and things like that. We talk about policies and procedures, because those are very important. Talk about starting a lab, virtualization, right? Ticketing systems. If there's anything that I would add immediately to this list, it would be to learn ticketing systems. There are free and open source ticketing systems online that you can use to learn how to navigate through them, learn kind of the basics of them, like learn about SLAs, service level agreements, just knowing and understanding that a ticketing system most often exists within an environment, and it's a great resource for you to utilize. I cannot stress that enough. Taking really good notes, ticketing systems go hand in hand, because when you make really good tickets, when you get a ticket assigned to you and you have really good notes and documentation that go along with that ticket, you will be thanking yourself many years down the road. I promise you. And people in your environment will be thanking you, because when you have a ticketing system, that's like a knowledge base for you. Say you get a phone call about an issue that you're not familiar with. One of the first resources that you can utilize from a basic standpoint, like basic fundamental standpoint, is your ticketing system in your environment. Look in that ticketing system for similar issues. Maybe it's the same user. Look at past issues for that user. Maybe it's a specific computer. You could look up past issues for that specific computer. Ticketing systems are a huge resource for you. And I strongly suggest that you learn how to navigate them and what they do. Plenty of videos out there on the internet to help you with that. I've made quite a few myself. After ticketing systems, I talk about introduction to infrastructure, which is basically just breaking down what computers and different devices are. And we talk a little bit about hardware as well. And then of course, OS fundamentals. This is definitely something that's basic. It falls in line with Windows Server and Windows 11 here. Just knowing how to navigate the Windows operating system is going to be so extremely helpful for you. Like knowing how to really use the task manager, knowing that the Windows event viewer is a thing. Like you can look at event logs, which can really help you troubleshoot things all the time. It honestly feels like so many times you can refer to the event logs. Anyway, there's just basic fundamentals there that everybody should be learning more about. So after that, Google is going to be the best resource in the entire world. So I'm actually going to add this to the list. Learning how to actually Google all the things. That's important. Knowing how to actually use and often abuse Google. It's something you'll do every single day working in IT. And then other stuff here we talk about within the Help Desk Academy is soft skills in your resume and job hunting and interview stuff and things like that. It's just a great resource that you can kind of go through to understand what could be helpful for you in your learning journey. So going back to the main video here, it was made 9 years ago, basically. Everything that I said 9 years ago is still relevant today. And I hope that gives you a good understanding of where we are in the IT world, where things kind of ultimately fall, right? And like where you should put your focus on things, right? These things don't change that often. There's nothing that has changed with any of what we talked about other than things being updated, right? Like Microsoft Office Suite, it's been updated like numerous times. There's been lots of visual changes and things added to Microsoft Office Suite as well, right? Windows Server, it's been updated as well. Some things look a little bit different, function a little bit differently. Windows 11, right? Windows 10 even. There's actually quite a few differences between both of those even. But these are all just basic things. And yeah, I found the comment that we got just so amusing, right? This one right here. This video was made a long time ago. Do you still suggest all the same things? It's like, yeah, let me go back 8 years, 9 years. Take a look. Is this information still relevant? Yeah. Like, still relevant. It cracks me up. I just love it. It's like, this is just such a waste of a video, because it's like, nah, yeah, I could have made this so much shorter, but I didn't. And I wasted all of your time, and I'm sorry, but thank you for hanging around as long as you have. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. I really genuinely do. So anyway, yeah, hope this is helpful for you. Basic skills for computer jobs in 2025. It's the same basic skills for computer jobs would have been in 2015. Sorry. Anyway, thank you for watching. As always, take it easy.